Your behavior pretty much tells people how to treat you. And unfortunately, nowadays, people have developed habits of behavior that literally sets back their gender 1,000 years. It's this type of stuff that when people see, they can't help but suck their teeth in and say, this person, I can't respect them. So we're gonna be talking about the behavior that sabotages you more than it helps you. And I'll be honest with you, these things are things that most likely you're not aware of. And the reason why that is very simple. It's pretty much just ego. When I mean ego, I mean when you're in the fog of war, meaning when you're having an argument with your partner or a disagreement, a strong ego will cause you to never see your mistakes, will cause you to underappreciate your partner, and they'll resent you for how hard-headed you are. What we want to be able to do is transcend our nature. And that's the whole goal of being alive, being able to overcome our emotions and think in a more rational way. So we're gonna be talking about that behavior that you may not be aware of, but I can promise you, your partner feels it. And this is one of the main reasons why most of our relationships don't work out, because we just don't have the self-awareness. So today I wanna give you that self-awareness so that you can become a better partner, because if you ask God to bring you a good man and you're toxic, why would God do that to him and introduce you to him? Doesn't make any sense. You gotta be the person who you want to meet, okay? So don't forget, we're having 50% off all of our courses. We're only doing that to the end of the week, using the coupon code BLACK. And that you could get 50% off the courses and 20% off working with me one-on-one, right? So it finishes on the 7th, I believe. So let's talk about the first thing, right? And this is actually, honestly, if most of your relationships end, it's because of this reason. And that's this, right? The reason why this woman looks psychotic is because there's a reason for it. First of all, she has beautiful eyebrows, spectacular. But the problem is that in relationships, you're gonna have conflict, right? You're gonna have conflict. And so because of that, how you deal with conflict is an indication of where your relationship is going. And a lot of times, how you start a conflict is sets the whole vibe of the relationship. So that means if he's doing something wrong, you start at it, say, hey motherfucker, what the fuck? You left the thing open. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? There's a coldness in how you reproach him, right? There's a coldness in how you talk to him. And this puts people defensive, because now they sense hostility coming from you. They don't sense warmth, they sense coldness. And usually this is what I call going Bronx mode on people. And if you're gonna have conflict with people, you cannot start it off confrontational. You just can't. Like, you have to start it off with a relaxed mindset, right? So just put the knife down and just relax and speak to people starting at a 0. And then if you wanna slowly escalate it to Bronx mode, do that. But make sure that you're fair to them and you don't start off at 100% with your Timberland boots on, right? The next one is defensiveness. This is pretty much what blocks you from understanding the person that you're with. This is what causes you to actually inadvertently hurt people, because you're so defensive, right? You know, hurt people. One of the things about hurt people is that they're always in a defensive position. So they're always on the offensive, if that makes any sense. And usually the defensiveness that I'm talking about refers to one, contempt, right? Contempt. Other things is criticism. And this criticism isn't just criticism. It's a type of criticism that you're seeking to criticize. It doesn't come from good faith. It just comes because you guys are literally like tallying things up in your mind, right? Oh, he did this, okay, I gained this point. Oh, he didn't do that, so he loses points. Hey, I did this, so I gotta gain 1 point. Like, you're not doing things out of love. You're doing things to show them that you're the one who's doing more work, to try to prove a point. Oh, you're the one that doesn't do anything. Look how much I did. And so your criticism isn't constructive. It really just becomes what? Destructive criticism. Now, and the other one is stonewalling. And that means that when people try to find out what's the problem, you don't give them any answers. A lot of the times when you're stonewalling or when they're stonewalling you, it's because you're sort of checked out, or you sort of feel like they don't hear you, or you sort of feel like the person, it complains too much. But the point is that when you stonewall people and you give them that coldness, you can never really resolve anything. It's and a lot of relationships are like this toxic. I can't ever imagine being with someone who stonewalls me. The next one is holding on to resentment. You never truly talk about your problems, right? What you do is that you just hold it in, never truly communicating. And this is pretty much a lot of the times people just learn this. These are like the four horsemen of defensiveness, which is contempt, criticism, stonewalling, and resentment. And this will cause you to have arguments where you think you're doing it because you want to fix a relationship, but underneath your exterior of trying to fix it, there's really just resentment, defensiveness. You feel like he's attacking you, and so you gotta attack him, right? And a lot of times, attacks can be projections from the past, illusions, mirages that your mind creates as a way to deal with unresolved trauma. Okay, and one of the ways to deal with this is to learn how to practice more meditation, because really defensiveness happens because you're not aware you're being defensive, honestly. And this unawareness of defensiveness allows this thing to keep working on you over time in your unconscious mind, right? Where you just are very stressed, very defensive. Even in your face, it shows it. In fact, like when you're really defensive, a lot of the times your face gets stuck in a defensive face. Like, like I call it like lemon face, where you eat lemon, you're like that. Okay. Now, the next thing that sets women back 1,000 years is just lack of empathy. And a lot of the times, this might happen, one, narcissism, right? Because they literally lack empathy. But also, like I said, defensiveness on your part, and you not trying to understand this person, you not loving them enough to try to understand them. And a lot of the times, this becomes a lifelong habit, because usually you're just self-absorbed. You're only worried about your problems. You are the main character in this relationship. And because you're the main character, your partner becomes the NPC, right? And this causes people to feel like you're not heard. Your needs are not met because really the center of the show is you. And this creates also defensiveness in your partner. And you will start to literally create what you are and hate that thing, when in reality, he's just mirroring you. And your hatred towards this person is really your lack of awareness of your hatred towards yourself, right? And so no matter who you're with, you're gonna keep recreating these situations time and time and time again. And this is where a guy will literally cheat on you who would have never cheated on you, because he doesn't feel heard. A lot of times when this happens, when you lack empathy, you stop predicting their needs, right? You notice they're late for work, and so you usually make them breakfast because you notice they're about to be late. You know, like, he's not gonna make it. But when you stop predicting their needs, you don't notice it. You're watching telenovela, you're watching Caso Cerrado, and you don't notice that your partner is stressed. You don't give him a massage because you notice he's stressed. You don't cook him that meal because you notice he doesn't have time. And these things, people want to be treated like children, not think that they're children, but be able to predict the needs like a child's needs is predicted by their parents, right? And that's where a man would fall in love with you deeper if you do this. But if you don't, they actually start looking for someone else who might give them that. And that's where the cheating happens, right? And this also leads to not paying attention to detail. You gotta understand, with everything in life, the beauty is in the details. Even in architecture, the beauty in a beautiful building is really the details. It's not the whole structure, right? The beauty in people are the details you learn over time. The beauty in art is really in the details. With Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, what made it beautiful was the detail. What makes an experience immersive are the little details, right? And so this lack of attention to detail causes the partner to not feel loved. They'll feel resentful. They'll feel like they're alone, right? And I was watching a video of this man he had I think I'm gonna draw it right, like a wheel, okay, of not a wheel of fortune, but like a wheel of wires, because he was an electrician, right? And so he had so much wire that it took him over 40 years to finally finish the wire. Like he had so much wire that it took him 40 years to actually just like go through it all. And so the man was actually looking at this wheel that was empty. He was looking at the last electric wiring that he had, right? And he was looking at it and he was like almost crying. And his wife was like, "What's wrong now?" And he was like, "Well, I have this wheel, and when I first started 40 years ago, it was full of wires, and now this is the only thing that's left." And he started crying. And she was like, "Oh, you want a tissue, little boy?" And he was like, "You know what? Forget about it. Forget about it." That type of shit. Where you sort of don't notice, you don't read the room. You don't notice that he's seeking empathy. And that lack of empathy towards his vulnerable moments makes him more defensive, right? The next thing is lack of vulnerability. This is what feminism sometimes teaches women. And the reason why they tell them that is because, that message comes from a time when women were actually really oppressed. And showing weakness validates men's opinion of women that they're weak, right? So you sort of don't even want to give them any excuse, even though even though vulnerability is not weakness, it's really strength. But what happens here is that then they build a shell of defensiveness where they don't show men their emotions. And what causes, and this causes them to actually give off a vibe that they're not motherly, right? And you gotta understand, women are wired to show vulnerability so that the guy can show his vulnerability too, right? Women tell guys it's okay to be vulnerable. So this lack of vulnerability comes across in many ways, right? The first thing is that you judge his vulnerability. You think that if a guy cries, he's a little bitch. And a lot of guys have said that women have left them because they cried. And if you see a guy cry, you might get turned off. If a guy tells you his problems, you might see it as lame and weak. In fact, Joe Rogan once said that he cried in front of a girl when he was 16, and she actually laughed at him and left him. And he said it taught him not to cry in front of women. But the problem is that woman was just an emotionally distant woman, right? And also the lack of vulnerability comes with lack of connection. Because eventually you're gonna have conflict. He's gonna ask you, "Hey, why is it that you never tell me what's wrong? Why is it that when I need you, you're not there?" And you might want to tell the truth, but it feels awkward, or you think it's lame or whatever. And so you never truly open up. So when there's conflict, rather than opening up, you get defensive, right? Rather than opening up, you sort of push him away even more. And if a guy is healthy, that wouldn't affect him that much. But if he's unhealthy like most people, it'll make him less vulnerable, right? It's really also the types of women who literally, they'll fuck you and then leave you, right? They'll literally treat you like a dude, where they'll literally do the things that guys do. And guys will have the impression that women nowadays are a bunch of Terminators. The problem is that it's just that this woman lacks vulnerability, right? And this also comes with having a lot of partners. And so the reason why I say a lot of partners is because rather than a partner get to know you, you rather just spread it out thin and meet a bunch of guys and only keep the relationship at a surface level. Whenever it becomes deeper, you feel awkward or it feels weird and you back off, or you create a life situation where keeping a healthy partner is almost impossible. Like you literally unconsciously create a system in your life, like almost like psychological defenses, where you literally have social defensive shields to prevent people to really get to know you. And that lack of vulnerability also causes you to have to hide your weaknesses. Which then you'll complain why men don't love you. Well, you gotta realize, men fall in love with your vulnerable side. A man cannot fall in love with what you project. A man can only fall in love when he sees the vulnerable side. And if he sees the vulnerable side, and he gets turned off because it's too much, he gets turned off because it feels weird, well then that's not the guy for you, right? You gotta realize most people are not compatible for relationships, or at least with you, because we're just so unique and our needs are so unique that to find someone who fits perfectly, a lot of the times it's like 1 in 20 people. The next one is that with vulnerability, is that you don't need a man. And so what that means is that then you'll start to earn a lot of money, you'll develop masculine traits, you'll create a situation where you don't need someone. And this is not good, because a man needs to feel like you need him. The problem is that you think needing him is weak. A woman who doesn't need a man is more weaker than a woman who needs a man, simply because by having the need for a man, it raises the ceiling of how strong you could be. Yeah, if you know how to be alone and be happy, that's good. But you can never be stronger than a woman who needs a man and has a man. You can never, ever be more confident than her. That's just how it is, right? And so you sort of cap yourself in a way. Now, the next thing is not being able to be alone. And it's not that you don't need a man, but that you know how to be alone. You know how to have a social life. You know how to have friends and keep friends. You know how to be literally by yourself. And the reason why is because if you have intense traumatic emotions, you can't be by yourself because they come up in a state of boredom. And so what I'm really telling you here is that you've overcame your traumas. Because if you're not traumatized, you could be alone. But if you are, you have emotions inside of you that you never confronted because they're so intense and raw that being alone brings it up. So rather, you find distractions. And because you cannot be alone, you can't have empathy. Because to have empathy, you gotta be relaxed. You gotta not have that internal dialogue that comes from insecurity. And this also causes you to not be able to walk away from people. Because to walk away is to anticipate that you're gonna be alone with this person, that you're gonna be alone by yourself, right? And this sometimes also comes with the not having courage to leave them. And this is for a lot of nice girls, where they date someone and they want to leave, but they feel guilty. And that sets you back many years. Because you're wasting your time and you're wasting this other person's time. All because you don't want to hurt them. All because you don't want to deal with the negative emotions of confrontation, of breaking something. It's like a doctor who is unwilling to tell his patient he got AIDS, right? So it's kind of like, I know it's difficult, but even though it's uncomfortable, you have to do that. And so this is honestly one of the biggest reasons why a lot of relationships don't work, is because one partner wants to leave, but they just don't want to tell you. I'll be honest with you, it is hard to tell people that. It is. I've said it before, but it's hard to tell people. It's like firing people. It's hard to do that, but you have to do it sometimes. The next one, and the last one, is aggressive behavior. And this means any action that is manipulative. So it'll come across as emotional manipulation, where you rely on gaslighting people, playing the victim, lying to people, having narcissistic traits, or even being a pure narcissist. But it also comes down to having tearing them down, right? You try to take away their confidence. And this is pretty much trying to tear a man down, right? And also it comes down to, if they cheated, rather than leave, you opt to control, right? And this happens, a lot of people do that. It's not just evil people. This happens because you love the person, but you don't trust them. So now you need control. And what happens is that this might happen once and it's fine, but sometimes this becomes a pattern. And a lot of people get hooked on the control of having a GPS, knowing where they are, looking over their phones when they're asleep. People, I swear to God, I don't think there's anything wrong if you're dating someone and in a few months in you suspect they're cheating, and you look and you open their phones at night. I swear to God, I really don't think so. Because if it's a one-time thing, I really believe it's totally fine. The problem is that you, rather than leaving the person when you find out they're cheated on you, you stay. And so you opt to control the situation rather than walk away. So it's almost like you're dating someone and you noticing that they're not giving you the attention that you want. Rather than walk away, you start to emotionally manipulate them, try to get them jealous. You start to say things that are emotionally hurtful so that you can inflict pain, tear them down, and build them back up again. Or you try to isolate them from their families and friends. You try to remove any association that gives them any strength or self-control. And this is aggressive behavior. The type of behavior that if you continue doing this, your partner might also retaliate and be aggressive. But the problem is that most likely you may not deal with that person. You want full control, right? This is the thing, is that if you stay, if this is you right here, most likely you're gonna develop a lot of physiological problems. You're gonna have wrinkles a lot quicker, cardiovascular problems. You may develop muscle pain, muscle cramps. It literally affects your body. It literally kills you. Having these types of toxic relationships raises your blood pressure. It makes you depressed. Everyone around you could feel negative energy. And the truth is, you will develop ailments because of this. Diseases because of this. And also sometimes, because you're so fucking out of control with your emotions, a lot of times you might develop drug habits. You might start drinking more, and that also affects your health. You might smoke more, and that also affects your health. And this all comes down because you can't control your emotions. You don't know yourself. You don't understand your true nature. You think you're such a nice person, when in reality, if you really observe yourself, you're an asshole. And so the first thing that you want to develop with this, it's self-awareness. Self-awareness of how far you've gotten. And once you become aware, the healing process begins. You got to understand, you rot inside because of your lack of awareness. But you also heal yourself by becoming aware of your faults and problems, seeing how you were the reasons why most of your relationship failed. Once you do that, you'll notice that everything falls into place. So you don't have to set women back 1,000 years, man. You could just be in the present moment, learn how to be happy by being within yourself, observing your defensiveness, right? Developing more empathy, developing more vulnerability, learning how to be alone, and learning how to redirect your aggressive energy. Sometimes, if you have a lot of aggressive energy, you could use that for the better. Use that aggressive energy and motivate yourself to want to change. The same aggression you feel to prove this person wrong, you should also use that to say, fuck this shit, I want to change. I think I could change. And believing that is an aggressive energy, all right? Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys actually want to learn how to develop more self-awareness, go to this website, dhama.org. Those are free meditation retreats. And there you guys can go to a free meditation retreat and teach you how to develop the self-awareness that you need so that you don't go straight to hell. Don't forget, people, we're having 50% off all of our courses. That means the course of Feminine Woman, Psychological Game of Attraction, Natural Chemistry, Charisma Blueprint, what's the other one? And Emotional Mastery. You can purchase them all individually at $50 using the coupon code BLACK, meaning it's from 100 to 50. Or get the bundle that's already discounted and slap an extra 50% off on that bundle by using the coupon code BLACK. And you can use it to get 20% off working with me one-on-one, and it finishes at the end of the week. Do that now, or else you're gonna become this. Take care.